get into it.
Let's do it, mate.
Episode 109, Catflap Chats. Visit catflapchats.com to find our back catalogue of merch. A podcast that we've had 108 podcasts previously. We're getting them all on YouTube slowly but surely. So check us out on YouTube, Catflap Chats. Our sponsors and partners are on there. So yeah, check out the website. Be amazing. At Catflap Chats on Instagram. Normally you said this, and I'm glad you did. Normally we'll have a tiny rebel and have a couple of beers, but it's 8:25 on a Monday morning, and you've got a cup of tea. I've got a stein of squash, which I think. Do you remember the beer keller in Cardiff? Stole it from there.
We like the beer. I think everybody had at least one good night in the beer keller in Cardiff. No.
Yeah, loose place. Mr. Lloyd Ashley. Hello, 150 up for the Ospreys on Saturday. I know it wasn't a win. We'll start with the rugby nausy stuff, then get on to the interesting stuff later, shall we? Thanks for going on, pal.
I reckon the rugby nausy stuff be done pretty quick, mate. So you're all right. Let's get it done. No, mate. Yeah, thanks very much for the 150 mention. Yeah, no, nice to tick off that milestone. I was going into the season sat on 148, thinking it can't be long. We still waited till January, managed to get to 150, and a small stint in the Scarlets in between as well. So it's been a bit of a strange run in to get to 150. But now it's nice to get it done. It's one of those times where you just sort of sit back and reflect. You don't get a chance. I don't feel that when everything's so busy to sit back and reflect. And I think when you're coming up to that number, it's nice. You got people getting in touch saying, "Oh, like well done for getting there." It could be people who used to play rugby with saying, "Oh, I always thought you'd get there," and stuff like that. Or there's other people saying who's been with you early on in your career saying, "How the hell have you got to 150, mate?" So it's like all those stories, and you're laughing, you're joking about it, and like just a small story from the weekend. Me and Adam Beard shared that like his first game for the Ospreys up in Exeter, like good few years back. I was captain, and then on my 150th, he's captain, and like obviously he's gone on to do some amazing things already in his career. But one of those little moments that you share together, like huge respect for each other, and gone like sort of like a real nice moment to have, and like means something. So yeah, no, it has been really nice just to share some stories, and some ones that make you laugh, and some ones that are probably closer to making you cry. So it was it was a really nice moment just to sit back. But you know what it's like Monday morning. Now we're on to the next game now, so it's not like 150's gone. And next time you get a chance to put on the jersey, it's just 151, and no one really cares. So that's a nice thing about sport as well. I like that part of it as well.
I suppose, like, obviously tough game against you guys at Glasgow, didn't you? So like tough game against Glasgow. That sense was a bit of a handful to pull off to. Like, do you like after I'm fortunate where I see the insides of professional sport a bit, but like after a game like that where you're away, I know it's a loss and you'll try and rectify it this week and training and all the stuff, all the cliches that come out with professional sport, right? But do you sit there and just have a beer after and like secretly deep down you're a bit happy because you've hit 150, even though you've had a loss, and even though, because we're all human, like it's a nice thing, like to play 150 professional games at all is great. To do it for one club is fucking incredible, like especially at rugby level, like that is incredible. Like, do you sit there and just go have a beer and like, oh, fair play, or are you one of those people that's like, oh, right, done, where's 200, like there's the next goal?
Nah, I used to be. I still remember hitting 50 when like people going, "Oh, it's nice," and I was like, what do you mean it's only 50 games? I need to get to 100. Like, but like probably since post 100, I think like different things going in your career, whether it's injuries, like struggling to get a contract or not getting picked, those things, and then you sort of appreciate the moments a little bit more. And in fairness to the boys, I think I broke a couple of dry Januaries in the change rooms on the weekend, passing around a beer just to make sure I had a beer with all the boys. So it was really nice. In fairness, the boys managed to park the emotion of a loss for a couple of minutes just to be able to appreciate the fact of getting to 150 for one of their players. And if you've seen somebody get to 50, 100, 150, 200 games, you know what those people have put in. And like, whether you spend a year with that person, a season, 2 seasons, or like some of the boys, like 10 years, like you appreciate, you've seen what's going on. And it was nice just to sit back with a few different people people who've come in from different clubs and so have gone like, oh mate, 150, that's like a lot of games, like well done to you and stuff. Or you've got people who've been there closer to the start of your career. So yeah, no, in fairness to the boys, like even after the games, quick debrief on the game, like where we are emotionally, and then in fairness, even in the huddle, one of the boys said like, look, the bigger thing today is Lloyd's 150. So even though we didn't celebrate it properly, let's just make sure we celebrate that as well. So no, it was a really nice moment, and there's things that you just they're those things you appreciate. And like Glasgow, in fairness, they have whiskey after the game, and it's like printed on who they played against. So they normally give it to who they think's player of the match. And in fairness, they come over and give it to me for my 150th. So like little moments like that you'll remember. Like that whiskey will obviously, I'll never be drunk. I'll just be always left there as a nice monument to the game. So now those things you do appreciate, and I do think when you get a bit older, you do appreciate those moments a little bit more.
Yeah, I suppose as you get older, like there's less chance of getting more and more of them. Just naturally, the body starts to let you down a little bit. There's young pretenders coming through who think they can chuck you about. Like, so I completely get that. What's it like at the Ospreys then? Like, I know it's obviously going to be a bit of a media answer, which I fully get, but you know, it's tough when you've got Alwyn, Tiprick, George, like they're all injured at the moment, and it's like coming back, you're missing some key men. Like, what is it like? Because it's weird how Wales compete so well at international level. Even in Europe, they'll give it a go, but then sometimes you look at the two squads. One is like a full international team, and you guys have just got so many injuries. Like, it must be tough at the moment.
Yeah, do you know what's tough as well, Mikey? The COVID stuff, because you're battering back and forth. Like you lose a couple of players here and there. Like you lose somebody for 10 days, they come back in like 2 days for a game. You're trying to fit the squad, even though we got huge injury list as well. So like, there's those things back and forth. That is tough, and it's like we say like about controlling the controllables, making sure we're doing everything we can every day. Yeah. But those things are tough to balance. I think genuinely, like, as a squad, even though the last 2 games we've lost, I think we're in a very good place. But it's mad, like you said. If you have a look at the injury room, it's probably the most expensive injury room in the world at the moment. So, like, but yeah, it's tough. It's tough for those boys. Like, you lose. Obviously, our club captain with Tips has been out all season. Like you said about Al. You look at some of the other people you haven't mentioned there as well, like Brad. Stephen Myler, Cathy, who's been in the injury rooms the last couple of weeks. So like, yeah, there's so much quality in there. But it's mad. Then you look around the squad that we took up to Glasgow. We definitely had a squad that was good enough to go and do a job there. We just didn't perform well enough, and we've got to take that on the chin. And there's nobody there feeling sorry for themselves. I've seen it in years gone by where people are going, oh yeah, but we've got so and so out. Like, nobody feels sorry for themselves. Everybody sees how much quality we still got, and there's more disappointed with ourselves for not performing, rather than feeling sorry for ourselves about what we haven't got on the field at the moment.
Good attitude to have, that is. I like that, because there's no excuses then. It's let's get better, let's work hard. Not necessarily work harder, because you're probably working pretty fucking hard, but you know, let's maybe be smarter, or let's change things, or whatever that is. Like, be self-aware about the surroundings, but more so, what can we do better? I like that. What's it been like? You've mentioned COVID a couple of times, but also with Ethan Phillips, like, horrific news. How's he doing? Like, what's that been like for the squad? Because that mentally, that can't be easy, and it must have played a small part at some point.
Yeah, just based go on Ethan first, mate. He's heroic, honestly. Like, in fairness to him, just how he's got on with it, like his mindset, his focus is unbelievable. Like, and he's been really honest about like the fact that at times it is up and down for him. Like, he realizes the severity, but then at other times he's like, yeah, but it doesn't really matter because I can still crack on with a lot of other things. And like, in fairness to him, one of the first people on the weekend to have text just to say like, congrats on the 150, mate. Don't worry about the score. Class achievement. Like, he's not self-centered with it. He's like completely, every time that we do something, he's like, thank you. It's like, well, mate, this is tiny. This just like doesn't matter. I think obviously the first week, details were obviously sketchy. Didn't know what was going to happen. That's tough for the squad, but those things bring you together as well. And from Ethan's point of view, the one thing like we spoke about as a squad was he won't want us just sitting around and moping about what's going on. He's the first one firing it out, whether it's training hard in the gym, whether it's on the training field, bringing energy, impact. Like he is that kind of personality. So it was important that we got straight back onto it and didn't dwell on it. But that doesn't mean that we don't deal with the psychological things. If like people need support, people need places to talk, we've also got that in place as well. And that was the most important the first couple of weeks, to harness our energy into actually helping him and doing something positive, like with the crowdfunding pages and stuff like that. And then also from a psychological point of view, being honest, boys, this is life-changing event for Ethan, but it has a huge effect on you. So don't be scared to be open and honest about it. And I would say, Mike, it's probably the most open, honest time I've been in camp, where everyone's gone like, wow, I've genuinely felt sick. I was like, I didn't know what to say, couldn't do anything. And like, I think before, if that was 2 or 3 years ago, boys would have gone like, oh, it is what it is, get on with it. And you know, they didn't feel like that, but didn't know how to express this. I think that it shows like where we've come as a squad, and that will definitely bring us closer. And like we spoke about, Ethan, his family and his friends, like this support isn't just here now, it's like it's here for life. And he was going to be a friend for life, whether this has happened or not. So it's just changing our energy into how we can do something as positive as we can to make everything on his transition as easy as possible as well. So, but like I said at the start, he's been heroic, and he's been very honest. And in fairness, like even the first couple of days, he's sending funny texts through about, how many jokes have I had about this, that? Is my stuff still left in my locker? And things like that. just a little things of banter that he knows he needs to keep him going as well. So like, and it picks everybody else up when they see those messages as well. So he's doing really well. And thanks for asking, mate.
Oh, I can't imagine what it would be like. You know, I'm fortunate enough where I've not had to go through anything quite like that. Neither me nor, I suppose, family members. So, you know, for you to have a smile on your face talking about it is quite refreshing, I suppose. And the fact that he's doing well, like I don't know the kid, but you know, I can see the rugby community pulling together for him, which is one of the great things about it. And for all the bad things that social media might have in Wales and rugby, like that was definitely a good thing. So glad he's doing well. I'd love to just chat about. So you mentioned there, obviously, about him feeling well and mental health and boys talking and all that stuff. And one of your sort of main day-to-day things now away from rugby is obviously living well with Lloyd Ashley. Do you want to just give us a quick sort of rundown on what it is? And I suppose we'll kind of get into it a bit more, because I know you do so much around it, but just in the first instance, what it is, why you got into it, what you do, how you help, and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah, so Living Well Lloyd Ashley is a company based around mental health and well-being. And obviously, from a rugby point of view, a lot of people go into the physical side of well-being post-rugby with personal training and those things. And the thing that really caught me was the mental health side of things, because if we're all honest, we've either had struggles ourselves or we've seen somebody close to us have struggles, and we don't speak about it enough. And early on in my career, Mikey, I'd be like, in rugby and saying to people like, oh, how are you? Yeah, good. And they'd carry on the conversation, walk past you. Like, I know you're not, but I don't know what to do about it. So I sort of like a couple of years back was looking what to do on the side of things. I at the time, I'd done plumbing, I'd done leadership and management qualifications, but didn't know where I was going really after rugby. And then started looking at like social work or teaching. Didn't know where I wanted to go. Found out that I couldn't do my teaching because of time. So instead of teaching, I went to do my lecturing qualification. So I'd signed up for the course right about 8 months before the course actually started. So one of the ladies who I always go back and forth to conversations about career, she said, oh, why don't you do like, you like speaking to people, you think it's important, why don't you do like an introduction to counselling? And I was like, yeah, why not? Like, that's a good idea. When it was like £100 course for 12 weeks in Cardiff and the Vale College of Barry. So like just turned up randomly one Monday night. It was like 3 hours every Monday night for like 12 weeks. I was like, oh, let's go and do it. Went there and it just completely changed my mind. I was like asking open-ended questions, giving people time to speak, making people feel safe. having a bit of silence, like we were speaking about earlier, so actually listening to what people are going to say and changing your point of question. Sometimes it might not be the right question to get more detail or give them an in to speak. So how do you change the question a little bit so people feel safe enough to speak? So that introduction to counselling just flip my mind about certain things. So after I signed up to be, I'm an ambassador for Havel, which is a Welsh mental illness charity. Done a few years of them with them, and then when I was doing my lecturing qualification, I was doing some work with Apollo Teaching in Bridgend. I was going into different schools that they had to run healthy living courses in like year 5 and year 6 in primary school. And when I was going in there, we're always speaking about the healthy living stuff and the food and using like the traffic light system on foods to decide what's healthier or not. And then we'd do a physical activity bit. And the biggest thing about physical activity, when I'd go in there, people say, oh no, we can't play football with them because they never let us play, or we can't do this. And I was like, well, I know what, let's change the games. We'll do a bit of football, we'll do a bit of rugby, we'll do a bit of netball, and we'll change how we do the rules. And then the boys like, I'm not doing netball. And then all of a sudden you go, all right, what if we do like this? And then you start playing, everybody's taking part, everybody's included in there. And then you go to them, what was nice about that? And then even like the top stars in the class who are like the big sporting athletes, for them in their class are going, oh, it's nice to have so-and-so involved. And it was nice when so-and-so showed me how to do this in netball. And you're going, how much more fun is that if we all do it together? And they're going, yeah, so it is. So I love having everyone around. And then it's like, that is our mental health. Like being included, being part of something, being empowered to feel like you can be included in it. And just being part of a team that not always everybody gets a chance to do it. And I was like, right, I need to do something where we make everybody feel included. And my passion was young men, especially from 14 to 18, dealing with everything they have to at that point, changing testosterone, thinking you have to be kingpin, but then you could have loads of stuff going on behind the scenes that nobody knows anything about. And we're not equipped to speak about that. We know as young men going through that point, we're not equipped to speak about those things. So as I was doing my lecturing qualification, I went to do my mental health first aid qualifications, then went on to do my mental health first aid instructors qualification, and then thought, right, I want to design a bit of a course around here for schools. So luckily at the same time, I was speaking to the WRPA about an ambition of wanting a course in the academies as well. And in fairness, Dr. Dale Thomas, who's the clinical psychologist for the WRU, and Dr. Steve Mell, who's the sports psychologist for the Ospreys, we sort of sat down and started looking at courses that we could run through the academies. Me sort of from a playing point of view, those two from different parts of the sports psych and the clinical psych. And we just sort of molded a course around that. And at the same time, I was designing a course for schools. And then I started running, so I signed up to be lead for mental health and wellbeing for the Welsh Rugby Players Association. We started running these courses, and just the change, Mikey, since over the last 2 years is unbelievable. And like when you said, oh, the Smile Stream Worry Fund, like I got a huge smile stream about this. I love doing it. I love the conversations I'm part of, and I love where it's going, and it's definitely not robust enough to look after everybody at the moment. And like, I'm under no illusion are we anywhere near the final point where we need to be, but we have taken huge strides in going somewhere. And I always say that we've been really proactive in a reactive stage. So luckily for me, the WRPA stuff's going really well, and the schools program's going really well. And both of those I love doing. Like I've done a huge block of work in Tonorevel School, and so the stereotypes you go in with are just beaten down pretty quickly. And the ones that are exactly the same as what you thought, the stereotypes that you work with, you deal with, and then the conversations that come out the other end are like incredible. And you've got these conversations going on that's so powerful to you and the people involved in it. And you're thinking, yeah, we're doing the right thing. Yeah, we might not have all the answers, we might not have all the structures in place, but this is a lot better than doing nothing as well.
There's a lot there to take in, right? I love it, like, because I 100% agree more should be done, like, over the last 18 months, 2 years. You know, I know 3 people that I was fairly close to from either a work or personal capacity that aren't here anymore. So the more work that people are doing anywhere, it for me, is better. With yourself and what you're doing with Living Well with Lloyd Ashley, like, because you were a professional rugby player, did you get, like, not kickback, but did you get in the beginning when you were starting to do this, you know, did you get a load of, not abuse, but like banter in the change room, or like banter from your mates? Like, you know, just that you walk in the change room, someone just says something straight away, don't they? Like, how were you able to just like take that on the chin and laugh with it, whilst also sticking true to what you really wanted to do, because you knew people needed it as well?
Yeah, it was funny, like, when just as I was setting up Living Well, Ben John, who finished from rugby with a concussion, and obviously gone on, and obviously gone on to do really well with a rugby trainer. But he said to me, as soon as you let your ego go, you'll be all right. He said this to me 1 week, and then I was speaking to one of the other boys about 10 days later, Will Taylor, who owns Bart Richmond, and he set up a very successful business after finishing from rugby as well. And he said virtually the same thing. Like, when you let your ego go, you'll be all right. And I sort of sat back and like, well, what are they on about? And then it was around the time I was going to put a video out to announce I'd opened Living Well. And I must have done about 100 takes on it. And I was like, I just can't put this out. I can't do it. And I was like, no, like, what's important? Why are you doing it? And then you sort of write down those things. What's really important to you? Why you're doing it? And then you go in, no, I'm going to do it. And like, I don't care what comes back from it. And of course, like, there's bits of banter, there's little things that come back, but you're like, nah, I'm doing it for the right reasons, so that's fine. And like, I still have bits of banter now about certain things, but the conversations you have around those bits of banter, you're doing the right thing, and you're going in the right direction. And in a way, if there wasn't that banter about it, it would be worse, because it's like no one wants to speak about it. Like, everyone's too shy to speak about it. They can't even bring it up, even if it's banter. So I think just understanding why you're doing it and why you think it's important. And when I signed up to be an ambassador for Havel a good couple of years back now, at the time, like, nobody was speaking about mental health, and it was a bit like, right, this is going to be out there for a lot of people when I did it. And the conversations I had the next couple of weeks privately with certain people coming up to me, I'm glad you're doing this because I've had this going on, or I've had this. I'm like, why didn't you speak to me about this yesterday? Like, I was here. Like, I wanted to be there for you yesterday. Why have you waited for this? But we need to make people feel safe, and like, safe to speak about these things, know that they've got that we've got so many common things going on. And like, you're open enough and honest enough, Mikey, to talk about the suicides, and we're obviously in an area that's a very high level of suicides. And like, I appreciate you sharing that, not only to me, but like to your listeners, because there's a lot of other people in the area that would have gone through it, and avoiding that isn't a good thing, not speaking about it. But the biggest thing we've got to do is show that there's support there, and that we want to be there for people. And it's not a bad thing to take that support, and it's showing people like that we're there all the time. And it's not just texting someone saying, oh, if you need me, you know where I am, because it's hard when you're in a time of need. But how do we actually open up that conversation? How do we check in with our friends? How do we show them that we're there for them? And that's the important learnings coming from what we're speaking about, and why it's so important that we do carry on the conversation. And a lot of people say to me, oh yeah, the rugby clubs in Wales are obviously not doing enough because the number of suicides. And I'm like, we're not doing enough. We're not in a good enough place. But I can also tell you those rugby clubs have saved so many people as well. And we can't lose from that either. So it's a huge balance, and we definitely have to do more. We're trying to work with the community teams a lot more, and there's so much going on from the WRU. And I know a lot of clubs, WRU not doing anything. Like, I've sat in those rooms, I've seen those meetings, I've seen what's going on. I know there's loads going on for the community game, and I'm not saying it's enough, and I'm not saying it's robust enough, but I'm glad the conversations are going on, and the support is trying to be put there.
Yeah, I think that's a tough one there, because no matter what people do, they're damned if they do and damned if they don't. Like, if the WRU all of a sudden gave 20 clubs £1,000 each to help with mental health, another 20 clubs would kick off going, why not my club? Or like, if they do this, well, why not that? There's always something which kills me about Welsh rugby, but like, the fact that there is stuff going on is amazing. And like, again, rugby's not doing enough. Well, what about the workplace? What about their social lives? What about their families? Like, it's not on you to fix the world. but you're having a crack, and I fucking love it. Like, do you like? Again, I've not been in a professional sporting environment, so from that point of view, I can imagine, right, it's easier for someone who doesn't know you. So maybe the academies, but even then there might be a bit of stigma because you're supposed to be big, hard men playing a sport, or even in the girls' game, right? I can imagine you go to schools, it's probably a bit easier for someone to maybe come and open up because they don't know you. They see you as a mental health worker, ambassador, before they see you as a rugby player, potentially. When you're in the change room or when you are amongst your mates, whether that's professionally or back at home, were you surprised at the types of people or the number of people? And like, did they struggle to open up at first because you don't want gossip going around the change room and stuff? Like, were there some obstacles in the way before it got to a place where now people can just go in and you'd be like, Jesus, I didn't expect that from him, but you obviously keep it to yourself?
Yeah, understanding confidentiality is huge, and like for people to understand that if something gets said to me, that like it stays with me, unless it needs to be escalated. If there's a risk to themselves or risk somebody else, obviously it needs to be escalated. But fortunately, that's not like hasn't been the case with so many of the issues. But understanding of confidentiality, and it's also like people saying, somebody else going, that's the most important thing I did was go and speak to somebody or have that conversation, or somebody saying, thanks for being there for me to have that conversation. Like those things just make other people feel a lot safer about what's going on. And it's also the understanding, Mikey, as you go along, people understand more about what you're doing and what's going on and why it's helping. Because we all sit there and say, no, I haven't got a problem, whatever it is, whether it's about a physical thing or your mental health. But you need time to sit back, process it, and to know that that's fine to do. It's important to do it. And so there were definitely certain obstacles there, and lack of understanding in certain ways, and being judged by other people. What if I if I sit with Lloyd now, does that mean I must be speaking about mental health stuff? It's like, well, no, the boys been sat with me for 10 years having conversations about so many other things and laughing and joking. So understanding that is really important. And the barriers are definitely being broken down, and there's a lot more openness about it, and a lot more appreciation. And like, it's funny because I'm obviously the one who's leading up the mental health stuff. I'm not the only one who's there supporting the players. Like there's so many other players in the squad that just do it naturally, without any qualifications, and you see those conversations going on all the time. And we've got our representative from the Welsh Rugby Players Association, Tim Jones, is an absolute legend. Like I reckon he's got something dirt on every boy in the squad because they've gone to him to speak to about certain things because they know he's confidential, he's supportive, he can trust him, he's got empathy when things are going on, he's got the knowledge of where to go with certain information if it needs to go further. So we're really lucky at the Ospreys to have such a robust system. And like I was saying earlier with Steve Mel, sports psychologist who's very knowledgeable in his field, to have that balance and act then at different people to go, right, this is what's going on, we need to support them. How do we support them? What's this going on? Somebody's come to me to have a conversation, I can go, mate, this is your worries. I think Tim would be better to deal with this. When are you going to speak to him about it, or do you want me to speak to him about it? So just having that system in place, because it's not one size fits all. And I know it's easy. What we do is like everybody from the outside goes, rugby players are this in one box, and it's like, well, no, that's not the case. There's 50 different personalities with 50 different things going on in the squad that we're not able to know everything that's going on, but we're able to try and put as robust a system in place for people so that they don't feel alone with those things. And there's so much stuff going on in like you just think about anybody's family, how much stuff goes on behind the scenes, how like friends from the point of view. And what we see is I've heard you on other podcasts saying that like in uni and then as a young age just going out smashing it when things were going on, the biggest thing to do was be bigger clown because nobody will question you about anything else. That's how a lot of people do. And like, it's important. How do we break that down a bit? How do we make people feel safe? How do we make people know that they can speak about it, that we've noticed that things have changed? Or why have things changed? Are we able to question it? So that's a big thing for us, and just not avoiding the questions. It might be an awkward answer back, and it might be difficult to hear, but don't avoid the question, and know that if you don't want to deal with it, there's people around that can help deal with those issues as well.
Often, you said there about difficult to hear. Like often, the hardest thing and the best thing are normally the same. So like, I might not want to hear it, but I need to because it's the right thing. It's up to me whether I get offended by it, which I shouldn't do because you're trying to help. B, I act on it, which I obviously will probably need to do because to make my life better. And I don't, not me personally right now, just for anyone listening, I'm all right at the moment. But in general, like, you don't want to deteriorate anymore. And like, but to hear those hard truths I've been there, and I've been through some stuff where I've had some of my best mates rip into me, like proper rip into me, knowing that there might be worse to come if I don't stop on this particular path. And like to sit back and you just feel sorry for yourself at first, but then you realize you can't feel sorry for yourself. Like it's your own fault, but there is a way out if you let people help. And it took a few things. Maybe one day I'll go through it, like, but it took me a few things to happen for me to go, fuck, I'm in trouble here. And it was work, life, home, daughter, family, pent up money, as if like I thought it was like fucking air, like just bunking it left, right, and center. Like, but a couple of people recognized it. I said I was fine, and then one day something happened, and I was like, I'm not fine, I need help. And that's where, like, that only, I'd say 5 years ago, maybe 6, that's where everything changed for me. But to hear it from someone else in the beginning was fucking hard. Like, you're in tears because you're ashamed, because you know it deep down what they're saying is true. Not that you've been caught, or not that you've feel sorry for yourself. You're ashamed because you know it's true. And all these people like are around you. And I know it feels lonely for some people sometimes, but I'd like you absolutely do. I'd much rather hear your story than hear that you potentially aren't here anymore or have done something silly or whatever. So for like anyone listening, my DMs are always open. I'm 100%, I would guarantee yours are. Like the messages I've had in lockdown, and this isn't a self-promotion by any stretch. You either like the podcast or you don't. Like, it's irrelevant. I like doing it, so I'm going to do it. But the messages I've had from people, like, these have kept me going through the lockdowns, through COVID, hearing that elite level athletes and people are just people, and they have the same shit going on I do. Doesn't matter how much money you earn, you've got the same fucking problems. They're probably just more expensive problems. But if you've got a problem with your missus or your family, you've still got that whether you're rich or not. Like, it doesn't matter. We're all exactly the same. Like, there are conversations we need to have more of. And like who do you have conversations with? Because two things actually I'm going to ask you, and this first one might be a bit controversial, right? How do you call out the bullshit? Because years ago, we just had bad days, but then obviously there was depression. We just didn't talk about it as much. And it was taboo, right? But nowadays, I see people who, and this might be just me, right? And I'm happy to live and die by this sword. But you see someone having a bad day and they've got depression or anxiety all of a sudden. And then when you see someone with genuine depression and anxiety, that's a different level. How do you call out the bullshit on the first one and help people to understand that it's not depression or anxiety, it's just a few cards didn't go your way? And secondly, then, who do you talk to and how do you get over things when things don't go right?
Yeah, go to the first one, Maggie. So emotional literacy is so important, like how we speak about things and understanding where we are is so important, because being in a depressed state is not depression. Being anxious is not having clinical anxiety. So understanding. So like I've a couple of years ago, I remember somebody saying to me, "I feel suicidal," and I was like, straight away, "Mate, how? Like, do you mind explaining a little bit more why you feel that? Like, have you thought about taking your own life?" And they're like, No, what do you mean? And I was like, "Oh, well, earlier you said you felt suicidal when you come in." And I was like, like, do you want a chance to explain and stuff? Like I'm here, let's speak about it.
Yeah.
Like, oh no, I didn't feel like that at all. I was like, I come in, I was like feeling just low, tired, like things going on, felt in a bit of a bad mood, probably just used the wrong word. And so it's just understanding that point of view, because so if somebody comes in today and goes, I feel depressed. And I was like, okay, let's have a conversation about that. Like, has this been going on for a long time? Like, has this low mood been consistent? Has there been a crisis or something that started this and triggered this? Or is it just, like you were saying, like the little things, like you haven't slept, you've had a few arguments in the house, you're stressed about your bills at the moment. Is it just a couple of those little things mounting up that we can actually deal with now, hopefully, that it's just a bit of a poor state in mental health rather than a mental illness that it could spiral to. So it's just, that's why I say all the time that we should check in as much as we can, because we understand. If I checked in with you 2 days ago, Mikey, and now you're saying to me today, I'm depressed, and I'm like, oh, when we spoke 2 weeks ago, you were saying that you had this coming up, you were excited about this going on and that going on. Yeah. And all of a sudden, now you've gone to being depressed. Like, and then you go, oh, yeah, no, fair enough, mate. I was just having a bad day, and yesterday was shit as well. So just understanding the context to it. And a lot of the time what we do, Mikey, is you hear someone say, oh, I'm depressed. And then we go, oh, they're depressed. Oh, no, they got depression. We don't actually ask them the questions. We don't sit there with them, give them the opportunity to speak. And like you were saying, like you've had friends that have called you out on it. Somebody might not have that friend to call them out on it. Somebody might not have those people who are close to them. So the thoughts are going on in their own head and making them feel worse and worse and worse at that point. So it's not until you give them a time to articulate how they're feeling and actually go into the detail a little bit more that they go, oh no, it's not that bad. It was just this, and this. But all of a sudden, when it's in your head, it's a snowball effect, and everything's on top of you. It's gone from a small snowball to an avalanche being on top of you. So it's important that we do question those things, and I know you put it in the terms of calling out someone's bullshit. Like I put it a lot differently, as in just asking those questions and breaking it down a little bit. But
you're probably a nicer person than me, though.
Always that little bit of understanding that we've all probably gone at times like, oh, I feel depressed, but you're like, no, actually, it's a few small things that have mounted up. So it's just understanding that and just giving people the place and the space just to actually talk about what's going on, and that check-in with each other is so important because of those things, because it can spiral to feeling like depression pretty quickly, whereas actually you're just in a bit of a depressive mood because of what's going on over the day. So that's the things that like to do, go break it down a little bit more and speak about what's been going on. And normally you get 9 times out of 10, you probably get to the point where you go, oh no, I'm not nowhere near depressed, and just actually in a low mood at the moment. And that's important. But for me, who do I go and see? I've got a fantastic family structure. I'm really lucky. Like my wife supports me with everything I do. Like lets me like crack on with things, whether it's late in the evening, I go certain places because I want to do something for living well, or whether it's whatever it is. She's really supportive, and she always comes back, say everything all right, and then like either all good or like actually struggled with this part, or you did this. And obviously everything we speak about in what would have gone on is confidential. There's no names to anything, but if there's something that I think, oh, that triggered me a little bit, or that hit me a little bit harder, I say, oh yeah, it was a tough story earlier, but I'll write it down, whatever. And I'm also really lucky to have the structure, like I said, in Ospreys, having Tim Jones there from the WRPA, having Steve Mell, and then also having clinical psych with Dr. Dale Thomas with the WIU, who like I can pick up the phone to anytime saying, oh mate, when we were in one of the regions today who was doing this thing, something come up about suicide, it's triggered somebody, like what support should we put in place, what's the best thing we can do. Like I've got those people to go to, and I'm so lucky to have that. Like it's not just like Lloyd Ashley runs these programs for the WRPA, and he's just left out of there on his own, and just hopefully he's dealing with it, and he's getting on with it, but we don't know. No, I'm very lucky to have a very robust system around me, probably some of it put in place by me, and then other things naturally put in place from people already in good positions as well. So I'm very lucky there. And like I said, it's also boys in training that are so good at just like how's everything, mate? And they genuinely mean it. They got time for you. Like, I'd just bring up one of the examples. Danny Lydiat is like unbelievable bloke who would sit there with a coffee for you, and even if he had stuff to go and do rehab wise, if you were in a conversation, you were saying something to him, it's like, right, I'll tell him I'll be over there in 10 minutes. Like, you let's have a conversation first. Like, a couple of weeks ago, I was struggling with non-selection, and he came up to me one morning. He's like, "Oh, how you doing?" And I was like, yeah, all right, just a bit frustrated. And he's like, "Come on, let's go and grab a coffee." And then, like, just a quick chat, and it was like, just picked you back up, put you perspective back in place, and you're like, "Mate, cheers for that." So it's like I was saying earlier, it's not only me who has these conversations. Like, with the boys, there's so many people who are so supportive, and like, I'm very lucky to have so many close mates in training. But like, just saying, like, picking out Danny Lidze, like, he's like one of the boys who's fantastic, and I know how supportive he is to so many of the other players in the squad as well. Just naturally comes to him.
I suppose your frustrations, and like, as a professional athlete, just in your work environment, I would have guessed the majority of people there get enough sleep, eat nutritiously, you train, you recover, you rest, although you spend probably a lot of your time resting, actually working on living well. But like, sports people's problems potentially are maybe slightly different, because the general public, I would assume, and you will know this better, but just from what I see, do myself here, don't sleep enough, don't always eat the most nutritiously, don't get enough exercise in, which helps with your endorphins and stuff. Don't drink enough water, drink too much alcohol, might do recreational drugs, might do smoke X, Y, and Z, which all hamper your mental state as well. So do you find that, like, you have almost like different types of conversations, but they're like, Joe public conversation tends to go this way, and like professionals tends to go that way, like, because people don't help themselves. Like, when something is depressing because it's not nice or whatever, you are not depressed. And you said there's a difference between like being a bit anxious about something and having clinical anxiety. They're two different things. But so many people don't help themselves outside. And I'm carrying a couple of kegs at the moment, but I don't help myself, because I go out and I drink a lot. I work hard, like work wise. Some days 14, 15 hours a day, but then I use that as an excuse to not have to train. I've got a garage full gym setup. I use it as an excuse, so I know where I go wrong, because I've been through this journey. Like, what can people do to help themselves a bit better? And perspective, you said just now, gratitude and those things. What can people do?
Yeah, I think that's a huge thing. I think that there's a crossover. Like, rugby players still have the same problems relationships wise. When their kids aren't sleeping in the house, your kids aren't sleeping. Like, we've got 17-year-old twins in the house, and like, it's probably only the last 3 nights they've slept the night through, and you're going, "Oh, wow, this is nice to have all this sleep again." So like, there's obviously certain problems that are like, and things that affect your daily moods that cross over. But obviously, like you said, from a professional structure, there's a lot of things, good choices already put in place for you, which are really important to be optimal performance as much as you can be. But yeah, there's so many little things that people don't do, and they're the things that we neglect the first as soon as we're busy. And it's like, sometimes it's good just to write down what makes you happy. What are the things that you do that make you happy? When's the last time you put time in to do those things? What did it make you feel like the last time you did it? What do you feel like now you haven't done it? And then you're starting to go, how am I not justifying going out for a walk with a dog? Why am I just going up to the top of the street? Like, those things are so important. Or why have I not gone to meet my friends for coffee? Why have I not picked up the phone to so-and-so? When you see her in front of you, and you really listen, and you really look at what you've put down on that list, you go, sometimes, because you stop doing those things because you think you're selfish. You think, I'm too busy to put time to go and see so-and-so for a coffee. Yeah. Well, no, actually, the people around you now are having a worse version of you. Yeah. Because you haven't put that time in.
Yeah.
So it's gonna support you, and it's gonna support the people around you. Life is so busy, and with phones, everything in front of us, it feels even busier than it's ever felt before. But like you said earlier, sometimes it's nice, turn your phone off, be present, enjoy the time you got. If you're sat down having food with the family, be sat down and have food with the family. Like, put the phone away.
I'm so bad for that, mate. Phone on the table, buzzes. Like, I am really, really bad for that. And my missus will tell you, like, we'll sit in the same room and not talk to each other for 3 hours because we're both on our phones while the film's on or something. Like, so I'm so bad with my phone.
Yeah, and it's not saying I've got it right, but like me and my wife now, we don't charge our phones in the room in the night. Like, leave them in a different room. So at least then, even if it's 10, 15, 20 minutes before you're going to sleep, at least like you speak to each other, you have some time, you check in with each other, see how everything's going. Or if I go and see one of the boys, first thing I do is put my phone on the table so they know I'm not looking at it. I'm not worried about what's going on there.
Yeah.
Like, so they know you're actually involved in that conversation. Yeah. And those little things are just really important to do. And they're so easy to do, but we neglect those things. And they're the things that make us feel better. And they're normally the first things that we get rid of. So whether it's training, because it takes too much time. Okay, maybe actually going to the gym, showering in the gym, and going to work. Maybe you haven't got enough time for that. But does that mean you haven't got enough time to start from your house, go for a walk, and come back? So you've still got some exercise in. Because sometimes we look at the gold standard and say, oh, we can't do that. So we don't bother doing the silver, the bronze either. We just neglect it completely. So, well, if we can't fit that in, what's the next best thing we can do? How can we fit this around? What about if I didn't do food at 5:30, I did it at 6 o'clock? Was that going to have that big an effect on everybody else? Or is that feasible for everybody? So actually on the way home from work, I can stop somewhere, do some exercise. I can stop somewhere, have a coffee with somebody quickly on the way home. Yeah. Like those things, just having a look at things and putting them into perspective. And also just thinking, in that time, how much screen time did I have? How much time did I watch Netflix for? Could I have done something else then? I'm not saying we need to do those things. Like our phone keeps us connected with people. It's probably a lot of stuff that we need to do work-wise, but was all that screen time needed? Probably not. Did you need to watch the 3 or 4 extra episodes on Netflix? Like, we all love it. We all love binging. And I'm not saying cut it out, never do it. I'm just saying that once in a while, could you have prioritized something else that was going to make you feel better the next day or the week after, or make somebody else in your life feel better because you made that, what it felt like at the time, a small sacrifice, but it was actually a gain in your life rather than a sacrifice. And it's just understanding those things and putting a bit of a perspective on the activities you're doing and why have you stopped doing something that makes you feel good. And then you start looking at it, you start questioning yourself why, and you're like, does it make sense why I have? Because actually the people around me are getting a worse version of me because I just don't do this for an hour and I thought I was helping them. I'm actually not. I'm making it worse for them and worse for myself.
Yeah, again, it's I suppose that self-awareness and those we get into bad habits really quickly and it's hard to break them, but it's not easily done. It's consistently done. Like if you want it, you'll get it. And if you're consistent, you'll keep it. And I think Damien Hughes said that on the podcast the other week. And like that stuck with me now because again, like over Christmas, the last couple of weeks, I've had a real tough time in the first world problems. I'll put inverted commas like tough time. Like I have, lost a job, a few other bits and pieces, COVID, couldn't have my daughter for Christmas. But like I'm consistent in what I'm doing. And literally 2 weeks later, I'm fine again. Like it's like that was a distant memory because I'm consistent in what I'm doing. Now I'm like this week for the first time since like May. Last week I trained 4 times for the first time since May, right? Well, now it's about consistency. Can I keep doing that? Like, what am I going to do today? And this isn't like, oh, look at me, look at you. Like, oh, but like, I know I need these things because I had a belting year last year, but I neglected my food and training to the detriment of other stuff. And now it's about finding that balance. So now I've got a bit of time off. Right, get into a good habit now. Train, eat better. I need to lose. I'm 135 kegs, so I need to lose like a good 30. I'm a big old goose. I should normally be about 16, 17 stone. But like I'm aware of that now, but it took me to go through all these bad places where now I'm able to sort of self-diagnose myself, I suppose. Like some people don't have that, and they need someone like you or a friend or a family to recognize it and maybe not ask for help. But I suppose like doing things together, like you're gonna go for a walk with your mate, like you said, put your phone off, take your headphones out, just chat about fucking anything. Doesn't matter. Like we're not particularly like me and you aren't actually friends from before. Like we've met each other on social media. I've obviously seen you play rugby and you've seen the podcast. Like, but you'll tag my thing. Like I'll share your because the types of people you want to be with and hang around with, and like I suppose, like if something's negative in your life, if something's hurting you physically, you'd stop it, right? But if something's hurting you in your life, you don't get rid of it. So whether it's that group of friends or it's that toxic job or boss or that toxic family member, I don't know what it is, right? But we don't get rid of it. And if you did, instantly your life would just be a little bit better. And it's short-term pain for long-term gain. And too many people, I think, live in the short term of, I need that money now, I need this now, I need that now. Well, if you stripped it all back in 6 months, your life would be so much better. And I suppose it's just getting that across to people that we can all do it. It just takes a bit of consistency, a bit of time, a bit of effort. And like you said then, writing down what you like or don't like, but what you want to do, what you don't want to do, what you want to be known for. Like, on my reputation 5-6 years ago, work-wise, was always on the piss, always at hospitality, took it too far. But now I'd like to think, you look at LinkedIn the other day, like my reputation is different now. Like I connect people, I make money for people, but whatever, right? But it was just time and consistency and self-awareness, and you got to work on it. Like it's hard.
Yeah, it is hard. And like the first couple of weeks, it might make you feel a little bit worse than better, as in like the fact you might be a little bit more tired. You might have a little bit less time around things because you've put time and energy into other things. But that consistency over a long time, like the science behind it shows that it does work. It's just getting to that point of balancing it. And all of a sudden it just fits into your routine. Like I think I just look like my wife last year after having the twin girls, she wanted to get back into doing fitness and get into a routine. And then, like in fairness, now she's training like 4 or 5 mornings a week. But like other time, it was like, whoa, that's gonna be really stressful. How are we gonna fit that in? But it's like, well, we get up consistently at 6 o'clock in the morning. Whether the girls have woken up before that's the only time we get up before it. But otherwise, up at 6 o'clock, get their milks ready. My wife gets her kit on, go straight to the gym. I'm in with the girls. I can feed the girls, get the girls changed, and whether it's taking them to nursery or whether it's taking them to somebody else, or whether we got my in-laws coming here to look after them. Like you fit it in. And the first couple of times, stressful. I know, like at times I'm going to training. I don't know which arm I'm using here or there because I'm grabbing nappies here. The other one's got the nappy or got something really dangerous in their hand over there. And I'm going, right, how do I do this? And I'm like, oh, stressful. And then you get in the car and you go, oh, it's nice to spend the morning with them. But you put it into perspective with there are minutes that you feel really stressed. You're like, I can't do it. There's one over there, there's one over there. But then I speak to my wife and she's just maybe got back from PT and she's like, oh, had a really good session this morning, smashed it. Or like at the end of December, she sat back and had a look at her goals that she had set for herself last year and seen how much she had smashed. And it was like all those like small sacrifices, all the times where she really didn't want to get out of bed in the morning because she was knackered from the day before and she still got out and she was consistent with it. It's like, it's worth it. Like that was well worth it. Well done. You're in a much better place now than you was this time last year as well, from a mental point of view as well as a physical point of view. And like there's times sometimes you got to sit back and reflect and go, no, it is making a huge difference. And like we can fit it in as long as we think about it and we're more proactive about it. So I do think that there's always a way to find it, but it might take sometimes of going, no, that's not the right way to do it, or I've got it wrong there, or I've gone too far this way or too far that way, and finding that balancing act. And we're always, as life, going to be in balancing act because things change. Like you were saying, Mikey, like you had work, you had everything going, you knew you had Dubai planned before Christmas, you had everything planned. Things change like that. And like
in a week.
They get, and like you said, you're on that massive high, and all of a sudden you're on that massive low as everything's changed, COVID, not being able to see your daughter for Christmas, losing your job. Those things just hit you. And like, really, if you had looked at it from the start, what of that was controllable? Nothing. Like, you were doing everything you could have to get to that point of Christmas Day, to have had that lovely build up, that stress-free time to go, oh, how nice is this?
Yeah.
But those other things hit you around, and then you made the most of the opportunities that you had, change those things, and now all of a sudden you're back in a good place, and you're back trying to be consistent. Hopefully those things don't happen again, and that you enjoy the moments up until the points where it might not be as good. So I just think it's really important, though, we look at things, we take into consideration that the decision we might make now might not be the best balancing act, but how do we edit it a little bit? How do we change it a little bit rather than just cancelling it and get rid of it? Because I think that's what we do too often, to go, right, Thursday night at training. Oh no, actually that doesn't fit anymore. Okay, I'm not training. Don't worry about it. Rather than going, oh, well, what about Thursday morning, actually? Because I've got more time then. I'm in later. You can go earlier. If you don't mind, you can go half hour earlier, and then we'll still have a bit of time here. And everyone's going, oh, that makes sense. Let's do that. But you do need to have a look at it, and you do need to try and organise it. But I do think there's ways of finding that balance. And if you know what's important to you and why it's important to you, you'll find a way, and you will find a way of doing it. And I'm not saying it won't come with some stresses and some downfalls to it, but they'll be worth it in the end as well.
Yeah, I think so. I think too many people look at the mountain rather than the next step. Like, oh, that's too far, I can't get there. You said about looking at those unrealistic goals or whatever. Like, Instagram's horrific for it. You see people are ripped up all the time, and it's like, oh, I'm not going to get there. But like, it's not about them, is it? Like, it's about what's the next step. Well, the next step for me every day at the moment is probably get up, get something done every day. So like today, chiropractor, and then some weights later. Tomorrow, I'm going boxing because I don't want to. I'm just going to go boxing because I want to get back into it. Wednesday, I'm playing football, so I'll do weights in the morning. Thursday, go on the bike, just the recovery, like hour, just get on the bike for an hour. Like, just that's the thing for me now. Every step, but the top of the mountain for me isn't necessarily six pack or anything like that, because I couldn't give a shit about that. But that top of the mountain will always keep being further away as well, if that makes sense. Because like, I don't know if it was like Matthew McConaughey or someone did that big speech. It was like my like idol or whatever is me in 10 years. Because in 10 years, it'll still be me in 10 years. Like, it's always evolving and always changing, no matter how good or bad things get. So everyone's on a journey. I love the fact that you're helping loads of people on theirs. I think more can be done, but it's easy to sit and say that from my armchair. And I think people need to realise that like, if more can be done, well, what can you do then? Not you, but what can they do to be that person? Like, be the change you wish to see. Like, and the more that people can do that, the better. Where can people find you? Because I know that you obviously do your videos as well with various people. So was it 4 questions? Watched a few of them, and like, where can people find you in your socials and all that sort of stuff?
Yeah, so on Instagram, I've got Living Well with Lloyd Ashley, which is an Instagram account, like you said, based around lots of different support, but a lot of videos with different athletes and stuff, talking about why it's important we speak about mental health, speaking about their perspective on it and what they do for their own well-being, and also sharing just some small steps how people can help themselves, where they can find support, some of the work that we're doing as well in different schools and in different regions. So that's me on Instagram. On Twitter, it's just Lloyd Ashley 91, and on LinkedIn, just Lloyd Ashley. So yeah, you can find me across all those different social medias, and like, feel free to start the conversation, drop in. Like, love having conversations, love speaking to people about certain things. So yeah, they're like I said, you said earlier about the DMs being open. My DMs are always open, but I'm not a 24/7 system, so I am quite strict to making sure the phone turns off as well. But I will get back to people as soon as I possibly get a chance as well. So
yeah, it's tough. I think I was in lockdown and my DMs were fired at one point. I'm just like, ooh, text, and like, it's not a girl, it's not a bird, it's all right. Like, He's actually one of my mates who's going through a bit of trouble. It was like that, bing, 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 bing. She's like, "Well, I mean, who's that?" So
and it's so nice, and like for people to know that there is always a support system in place. And like I tell people all the time, there is always support there, and however alone we feel, there is always support there. And it might not actually be physical, but it might be somebody on the end of the phone, and understanding at times. Like, I know how many times I put out the Samaritans crisis line. I know how many times I put it out all the time, and it might be that one time that I put it out that you actually really need it, and that's the time that you notice it and see it. And that's why it's so important that we do share the key messages about mental health, and people understanding where to go when they can get that support as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And like, it's all right to have bad days, but if they're consistently bad days, ask for help. It'd be the best thing you ever do. Like, if I was to, I suppose, give one bit of advice, that would be it. Like, I have bad days. I try not to have, a bit like sport, you try not to go back to back. If you give away one penalty, don't give away straight away. Like, miss a tackle, make your next one. Like, don't go back to back. And if you are, change something. Like, ask for help, change something. See what we can do.
Yeah, definitely. And I think that we're in a bad image at the moment, Mikey, which we're starting to get out of, is that, like, if we went to counselling, you'd be lying back on a sofa and you'd have to say everything. Yeah. But there's so many different support systems in place. There's walk and talk groups. Just before Christmas, I went to a peer support group that was based above a gym in Bridgend. They asked me to go and speak, and it was just about 15 men just actually being completely honest and having a robust conversation that really supported people. Like, there's so many different, there's obviously a counselling, there's obviously psychotherapy help, there's like so many different things in place. All there's like alternative things. Like, I like my mental health all the time and for my well-being. Like, I use the ice barrel. Like, I'm in the ice tub outside the back garden all the time. I know, like, you were doing there last year. Like, it's so good for you, to making you feel present and being back in the room. And that fight or flight mode they're I guess into, especially now in the winter when it's a bit colder, you come out there and you're like, done a good job. It's only 10 minutes, but like, wow, I got through that. And like, and you're happy, and your endorphins are bouncing through the roof. So like, it's important to pick those little things and certain things, but there's loads of different things people can do. And even just going out for a walk and clearing your thoughts and trying to be present and understand what's going on in that day, that'd be a huge thing. And that might be your treatment as well. So there's so many different things what reaching out for help looks like, and it's not just one size fits all. So try things. If it's not counselling that works for you, try different things. Like, it might be something else. You might not feel comfortable one-on-one, so you might want to go to a peer support group. And there are lots of those things out there. And obviously COVID's hit certain things and services that can't be available. But there is actually still so much going on, whether those groups have gone online or whether it's other support groups that now can be in place as well. Yeah.
I know Penarth Rugby Club, one of my old rugby clubs, they do like a Monday night mental health catch up, and I've not been, but I know the chairman down there, Sean, and I'm sure you'd be welcome down there to give a little talk. I'll make the introduction, pal, because right up their alley in terms of the support that they look for and need and stuff. And, you know, a room full of blokes who just want to, even if it's just going for a pint on a Monday night, like whatever the excuse is, good things come out of it.
And it might just be listening, like you said earlier, Mike. You might not even want to say anything, but you hear somebody else who's having the same sort of struggles as you, and you go, oh, okay, other people are going through it. It's not just me. Because at that point, when you're going through it, it feels like you are the only one going through it. And it's important to realize that you're not, and that might be enough for you.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely, mate. Enjoyed that. Thank you.
Enjoyed that as well. No, thank you, mate. Thank you for the time.
Sorry for anyone who come on for rugby chat, because it was fuck all.
Just how I like it.
Yeah, no, mate, I love it. Like, more people need to talk about it. And like, for anyone listening to this now, there was a good episode with Damien Hughes that we've done, and also a great episode with Andres Pretorius. But back episode like 30 odd, maybe, I can't remember now. But again, like, a lot of what Lloyd has spoken about today is covered by those guys from different points of view and different perspectives as well, especially around the physical and psychological changes in the body when you go and do exercise, and serotonin and endorphin. So, like, to listen to the 3 podcasts together, I think would be really useful for someone. And
what Mikey's saying there is that this is the basic level, and then there's 2 expertise going up the steps to the complete. So start with this one, then work your way up to the intermediate and expertise stage after this.
that was absolutely, you said that, not me. I think it's good. Like for me, I didn't know Andres. I don't know Damien Hughes, but I listened to Damien on the High Performance podcast.
As do we all.
It's good. It's good to get different people's perspectives, and like it's telling that story. So like you're coming at it from your point of view as a professional rugby player, currently playing still, who's working with. Damien's coming at it from an elite level. Like, not saying that the Ospreys aren't, but Manchester United in England and like that level football, and like that is a different level to rugby. And then Andres is coming from a guy who doesn't play anymore and is working in this like. It's 3 different views that are all in a roundabout way saying the same thing. I just think like it's made me as you've been talking, I've been thinking back to those 2 conversations and thinking, they're quite powerful.
And that's why it's important, like you saying, that for people to listen to all 3, because I might catch somebody in with something, but it might take Damien or Andres to catch somebody with the same sort of message. It's just articulated how they understand it and how they see it. And that's why I always think it's important. Like you were saying, Mike, I know like you do your podcast, love doing your podcast, but you're a fan of other podcasts because you like listening to different messages, how people ask different questions, and you take things from different places. And I think that's so important to listen to different things, watch different things, try and understand. I know like on social media, there's 140 characters on certain things. So there's a very, very small snippet. But try and understand what that means, and also see that somebody else saying it might come from a completely different perspective to how you're taking it as well. And that understanding of the background is really important, because we do see things quickly, just get our stereotypes, see it from our point of view, and judge people by that. And actually, it might be completely different. And that's why it's nice to have context of things. And that's why obviously podcasts and long form of things like this is so much better, because it gives you a chance to actually explain.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I listen to Good Bad Rugby, and every time they start it, I think how much better is Alex Payne at starting a podcast than I am. But he's got 15, 20 years experience doing that for Sky. So I just think, it's not like what.
Yeah, and he might be too official for somebody else. So like somebody else is listening to you and go, oh no, I won't listen to that podcast because I want somebody laid back who's doing this, or somebody who's got energy in doing this. So like it's so different. And that's why we need, so like I was saying earlier about a robust system, you need so many different things to try and get the same message across to different people. And that's why you can't stop banging on the message and changing it how you do it as well, because it's so important. And one thing you said earlier that really resonates with me is that you would do this anyway because you love doing what you do. Like I would do what I'm 100%. Doing anyway because I love doing what I do and I love the conversation. So it's so important to have that. If you can find that passion, it just makes everything so much easier as well.
Yeah, 100%, mate. I think I did 43 episodes before, which obviously cost me money, before I made a penny. And look, for anyone listening who thinks I live the good life, mate, this literally pays for my car, and that's it. And my phone, sorry, that's it. Like there's not thousands in the bank that I'm just building like by any stretch. It pays for a couple of it, and I don't want any more because it's not about that. It pays for itself. I'm happy because, like I said, I would be doing this. I'm just fascinated speaking to people, mate. So good on you. Good on yourself, mate. Keep fucking fighting the good fight, pal, because it's needed. It's appreciated. Hopefully it's appreciated. It's definitely needed. I love the fact that the Ospreys are quite forward thinking with it. And I'm sure loads of the other regions are. Not spoke to them, but I'm sure they are. We're in a different world now. So keep on, mate. I love it. Thank you so much.
No, mate, thank you for your time and keep doing what you're doing as well. Like you said earlier about Cher, I'm a big fan of their podcast as well. So keep it going, mate. And I'm glad everything's back on track and we're heading in the right direction as well.
Top man. Cheers, pal. Look, good luck with the rest of the season. Hopefully, I know you've got a couple of tough fixtures coming up next 3 or 4 are a bit spicy. So have fun with that. I'll keep an eye out and catch it when we're allowed, pal. We'll catch up for a beer and put the world to rights. And I'll tag you in this tonight and later and on LinkedIn tomorrow morning. All right, boy?
Happy days, yeah, mate. Get a shade, and we did say as well when Damien comes down, we'll catch up for that beer as well with him.
Yeah.
So
I'm in for it, boy. All right.
take it easy, brother. Thank you, mate.
Have a good day. Take care. Ta-ra.
And you. Bye, pal.